Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is another episode of Women in Science. This is March, so it's the month of water and it's the month of women. Well, we should say we should have a year of women, don't you think? And today, or many years of women, or every year of women. Anyway, today I have the pleasure to host one of my dearest friends, mentors, example, leaders, everything good that I can think of. And I'm going to introduce, of course, my friend, my dearest friend. As all the women that are here, we're all friends and we all cherish each other and we all learn from each other. But especially you, Renee, I just feel good every time that I talk to you. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here today with the Permanent Forum of Binational Waters. This is a space for women. Scientists, women especially, and you are much more than that. So that's the reason why we are talking today. And I'm going to quickly introduce you so we can start our conversation and for our audience to know who you are. Dr. Renée Martin-Nagle holds 5 degrees, including 3 law degrees. Her multidisciplinary PhD, which she earned in 2019, researched the law and science of offshore freshwater deposits. Currently, her water-related activities include serving as internal water expert for a Fortune 300 company, as treasurer of the International Water Resources Association, as co-chair of the International Scientific Committee for the 18th World Water Congress being held in Beijing in September, and as secretary treasurer of her local water authority. She will attend the UN Water Conference in New York next week as a representative of both IWRA and IDA, the Association for International Water Law. Prior to devoting her professional energies to water, she spent more than 20 years as the chief legal officer in North America for the European aircraft manufacturer Airbus. I'm sorry for my English. The birth of her first grandson in 2007 inspired to dedicate the rest of her life to preserving the planet for future generations with water as her main focus. Thank you, Renee, for being with us today. And thank you for all what you have done in your life. And thank you to your grandson. Thank you to your grandson.
There are 2 of them now.
Wow, you have 2 now. Okay. So thanks to them for having you keep going on. So let's talk about women in science, and particularly your case. If you have to look back, because you have this long, experience, history, what are your regrets? And I'm going to focus this. I want to start the conversation with this because this is what we usually think of when we look back, right? What are your regrets as a woman in science, as a mother, as a woman in law, as any role that you have played as a woman in your career? What are your regrets?
I think my biggest regret is that I was a single mom from the time my daughter was a month old. And so I went through college and law school as a single mom through, the early stages of my career before she went to college. And I felt that as a single mom, I had to focus almost all of my energies on my education and my job in order to be able to put food on the table and provide for us. And I neglected her. I did. And I really, really regret that I wasn't able to balance my energies as well as I would have liked to. So I would say that's my biggest regret as a woman, that I wasn't a better mother. I was a pretty good student and a pretty good professional and a pretty good lawyer, but it's just hard to balance everything, and I let the woman part of me be neglected. So I say that's my biggest regret.
Did you imagine how many women are out there thinking the same thing? Regretting the same thing, and I feel that same thing every day.
Your mom.
We always think that it's never enough, right?
And we women think that we can do it all, that we can balance everything. And it's just not possible to do it all well with 100% of ourselves. Something has to give.
Yeah, that is true. And I think of the many women out there that are me included sometimes, that, we have that feeling of guilt because we have that career and it's important and we're good professionals, except that we also have to be 100% mothers at the same time. So, God, that was strong. Thank you for that. Now, what are you most proud of?
Let's see, I'm proud of my career. And I'm also proud of the fact that my daughter came up pretty well, really. She's a terrific human being. In spite of it all, she got 2 degrees herself, including an MBA. She has a great career. She's married to a good guy. She's raising 2 good boys. And so, in spite of my deep regrets and deep guilt, it turned out okay, because I hope that she knew that she was, like, the reason why I was working so hard was for her. And then, when she got married, I realized that I didn't have to work so hard for her anymore, because she was taken care of. And I started to feel, a little bit disoriented. And then when my first grandson was born, I knew that I needed to change career paths, that I still wanted to be a career woman, but I didn't want to do aviation anymore. I wanted to work for the planet. And that's just been a wild ride.
Well, she must have had a good example then, if things turn out right. Something, at the end of the day, things, they fall out in the right place where they should be, I think.
We hope.
We hope, yeah, we hope. Now, if you were to say, what are the 3 lessons or experiences that you would like to share with women in their careers as a professional and as a water person, as a scientist, as a lawyer? What are the 3 lessons that you have learned that you could share with professionals like you?
Yeah, let's see. I'll try to have 3. Might be more, might be fewer. I don't know. But in science, it's a male-dominated area, and so there aren't as many women. And aviation is male-dominated. Water is male-dominated because, in aviation, it's because it's a lot of engineers and not a lot of women go into engineering. And in water, it's a lot of scientists and not enough women go into science. So I think that's why the 2 industries are male-dominated. So I spent I was in aviation for 25 years. And for 23 of those years, I was the only female executive. And so my lesson number 1 is learn to work with the guys. Because, especially in a male-dominated area, you've got to work with the guys, or you're just not going to have a seat at the table. And also another lesson that I learned, but this took a while, is to celebrate the different perspective that I bring to the table as a woman. Because I felt in the beginning that I had to be one of the guys, so I was sort of a guy in heels. But I realized later in my career that I bring a different perspective than the guys have, and that they grew to value that perspective, and so they would really listen to me when I would say, there's another way to look at this. And for them, I sort of focus them on how do people feel, sort of the woman thing, how will people feel if we do this or we say that? And also I insisted on integrity. And that, of course, as a lawyer, that was my job, but still, that's just part of who I am. And there are guys who work with integrity too. But as a woman, I just felt very strongly that I needed to represent the voice of integrity. And so when things didn't feel right, I would just say, this doesn't feel right. And I guess a 3rd lesson that I would say is, and we women say this, we have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And I don't think it's twice as hard to get half as far anymore, but we have to work twice as hard to get as far, and that's just how it is. We have to work hard, especially in a male-dominated sector. And frankly, I like working hard because for me, it means learning things. And I get excited every day when I wake up and I think, I'm going to learn a lot today and I'm going to make a difference today. So I still, even after all this time, I still love learning. And for me, that, like, you can say, you work really hard, but for me, that's just about learning and then implementing the lessons from what we're learning. So I guess those are my 3.
So what do you drink every day to get that energy? I need the
Fortunately, I was
recipe.
born. Fortunately, I was born with a lot of energy. But the other thing is, we women have to manage stress too. And I've become convinced, because I'm much older than you, and probably much older than most of the women watching this. And so when we're in our prime, we're running on stress, and those stress hormones are, adrenaline, cortisol, and they really fuel us. And I recently saw a study that confirmed a suspicion that I had, that, our cells have estrogen receptors on them. And those estrogen receptors are also receptors for the stress hormones. And so that's why those stress hormones fuel us for a very long time. But as we go into perimenopause, the estrogen receptors start to close up. And so they're not as receptive to estrogen or to the stress hormones. And those stress hormones don't know where to go. And I've seen it happen a number of times where women who are, older, perimenopause, postmenopausal, their bodies break down if they're under too much stress. And so we have to realize that we're complicated, and we can be fragile, and we really need to take care of ourselves, not only spiritually and emotionally, but also physically, because we do try to do too much.
How do we stop?
Because we're not wired that way. Because you probably know this, like our brains are wired to be sort of the fire tenders, way back when, the hunter-gatherer era. Men were out stomping around trying to bring home game or whatever we were going to eat. And it was the women who kept everything going in the village, and we still feel that way. We're just wired that way. It's how we are.
God, there's no way out.
That's why we have to be intelligent, about taking care of ourselves. Yeah. And finding the balance. And I spent a lot of years out of balance. One thing that always helped me was exercise. So I was just committed to staying fit, and I still am. And that's one way to burn off those stress hormones, is through the exercise, and to keep my body fit. Some people do it creatively, through music or art or something, but we need something that will feed our souls too.
That's very important. And we need time for that. And we need to plan for that.
Exactly. We have to budget time.
Did I tell you that I'm learning to play ukulele?
Good for you. Good for you. I tell you that I'm learning how to play the djembe drum.
Really? Okay, next episode, we're going to play something. I promise. I'm going to play something, and I'm going to invite somebody that plays, and I'm going to invite you, and we're going to be a bunch of women playing something, whatever.
How fun would that be?
I just don't have time to practice, though, but I have the ukulele ready.
I know. I know the feeling. My djembe's in my living room waiting for me, calling.
Yeah, and it's just next to my bed, like, hey, I'm here. I mean, that's what my professor said. Put it next to your bed, that way you won't forget. And I said, okay, I still forget him, but it's still there.
And you trip over it.
That's how I burn stressed out, just watching on my ukulele. Now, I know that's funny. Now, for new generations, and I'm very passionate about, when I work with students, female students, scientists, all the energy they have is like, oh my God, I want to kind of, hold them and, push them as much as I can. So they, all that energy they have, push it forward and try to translate that passion into them so they don't lose it over the way. Because it's not just about their careers, it's about being women, right? It's about motherhood, it's about, or being single, or it's about just being women. Because that already has a role in our society, and especially in our careers. So, regardless of the area of expertise, and I know we've been talking about broadly anyways, but what is worth fighting for now for women? I mean, in the 21st century, what should we be looking at? I mean, as women, as scientists, knowing the conditions of our planet that you know better than many of us, knowing the challenges, and you have grandsons, and I have children, and you still have, I mean, your children are grown up, but mine are, still kids. But when you have grandsons, I mean, what is the fight for us now? What should we be looking at, concentrating our energies on?
Well, I think that there are two things, two main areas. One is to make a difference within our spheres of influence. And that can be our careers, it can be our neighborhoods, wherever we can create a difference to focus on that. And that can be a couple of different ways. One of it is like in your job, trying to, for example, for the scientists, to do that study, do that research, publish it, just get the word out there. And the second thing is related to that, and that is raise awareness of what the issues are and how we need to change our habits, because we all know that the status quo is not going to benefit us long term. It's just not. And so how do we change? And people tell me I'm depressing now, and I say, try living inside of my head, knowing what I know. My full-time day job is to know about climate change and its impact on water resources all around the world. Like Cyclone Freddy, and whatever's happening, I got to figure out, why is it happening from a meteorological standpoint, the best that I can, and then what is happening. And with water, we're facing these increasing cycles of floods and water scarcity. And for example, I live and talking about raising awareness, I live on a ridge of the East Coast U.S. Continental Divide. And so we get the water first, and we almost always have enough water because we're on the ridge. And so the clouds hit our ridge and they dump their water, and on they go. And people say to me, so, how will I help anybody but if I take a shorter shower? And I say, all right, it's not all about the humans, because if you draw less water from our reservoir, that's more for that ecosystem. So let's think holistically. And so if we can help people to start to think holistically, as women, because we get that, right? We're sort of wired to think holistically. Then maybe we can get people to change their habits. And also, this rampant consumption that is meant, we're brainwashed into wanting to consume in order to support the economy that has become the god of our species at this point. If we can start to turn people from that, from the rabid consumption, I think that will help too. So focusing our positive energies and then trying to raise awareness.
And I'm gonna take with me the consumption habits. That's really what the big chunk of the use of our natural resources is. And it's a trend. We follow the inertia of the market, right? And it's a lover, and there are super great things out there that you can buy, you can get, but it's really not necessarily, and it's really not helping. Not at this point.
We don't really need it.
We don't. We do not really need it, at least not to survive. Not as much as we need water, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and fresh air, and
and everything that comes with it. So, we need to start changing our mindset. Big
and to raise our children to understand that they don't need, like I said, I have two teenage grandsons. I am stunned at how expensive boys' athletic shoes are now. Like, I don't know if your kids are into that. It's like $300, $500 for a stupid pair of Nikes, that they're not supposed to shuffle their feet, not to wrinkle. They can't walk naturally in these shoes. Like, what good are they if you can't walk naturally? Oh, they're very cool. Like, I walk into these athletic stores with them, walls and stacks of athletic shoes in all different colors and styles, and all of them so expensive. And it's mass marketing to these teenagers, and that's where we get hooked, because teenagers sometimes are working, so they have their own money to spend, or they can bug their parents to spend money on them. And so that's where the brainwashing starts, is with these teenagers. And also, like, as parents, we're brainwashed into thinking, your child has to have, I don't know, 30 different outfits and, all the latest and greatest and new equipment for babies. And, I became enamored during my PhD. I lived like a PhD student in Glasgow, Scotland. And I became enamored of the thrift shops. I mean, you can get really good deals of really good quality stuff. And I'm not contributing to the depletion of natural resources and the expulsion of emissions and the use of water by buying new things all the time.
It's a big mindset. Big mindset. It's a paradigm. Is the market paradigm that we need to fight against too? So it's a big monster out there. It's not even climate change, from my point of view. It's something else that has to do with us.
Yeah, it's true. But also, like, the emissions that are used to make all this stuff for us go into the air, and that creates the climate change.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all related.
Okay, we have big things to do. We still need to work on this. And for women that are just, young professionals out there, hopefully this conversation helps out to spread the word of where the change needs to be.
And
Thank you.
About the young professionals.
Go ahead.
Yeah. As I said, I was the only female executive for 23 years. And it was lonely. It was really lonely. And the men would tell me that they could not be seen to be helping me because, I was young and kind of good looking and single. And so they would say, look, I can't be seen to be helping you because people will think we're having an affair because the guys are all married, right? And so I was alone, and it was really lonely. And so I became really passionate about mentoring because I didn't want anyone to ever be as lonely as I was. And so I mentor both men and women. But what I have found, especially since going into water, because I was an early career professional in water, even as a grandmother, is that I benefit from young people. And so I want young people to know that the learning can go both ways. Yes, you can get sort of, wisdom and experience from older people, but also there's a lot that you have to teach as well. And so don't underestimate the value of your knowledge, your experiences, your insights, because we can all benefit from that.
And we need it. We need that energy and the creativity. I mean, it's amazing. The innovation, potential, the creativity. I mean, that's in the forum, we have young professionals helping out. And believe me, I cannot live without them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
too. Yeah.
They're fuel. It's just natural fuel. Like, no, I mean, this is the way. I say, yes, you're right. This is the way. So it should be that way. I mean, this initiative, Women in Science, was proposed by, master's students, a young professional that said, we need to have a space for women. I said, you know what? You are perfectly right. And then that's how Women in Science was brought up to the forum. And we keep pushing and pursuing and, trying to bring women leaders out there to help, build women communities, scientists, supported, highlighted their work and their place. And there's a lot of things that we need to do for the planet, for our families, for our kids, for everyone.
For everyone.
Yeah. For everyone.
Yeah, when I was the only female executive for so many years, there were two organizations for women in aviation. One is Women in Aviation, and the other one is the International Aviation Women's Association, Iowa. And Women in Aviation allowed men too, but Iowa allowed only women. And it was like, it was like a sanctuary for me. Because here were and it was open at that time only to executive women. Now women at the management level can also join, but you have to be interviewed, you have to apply, be interviewed, you have to put in a managerial position for, I think, 5 years. So it was high level women from around the world. And it was just so nice to be able to share things with other women and not feel that I was, wrong or crazy or anything because I had a different perspective. And so, we women coming together, I mean, there's just something so synergistic about it. And I just get excited being in women's organizations, and especially young women too.
Yes, I agree. And there are more. I mean, thank God. I mean, there are more, but still we still need to do a lot of work for gender equality and all that.
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I don't know when I don't know. And I hate to call it a battle, because sometimes it feels like a battle. But let's say the effort will not be over anytime soon. If we come into it with a mentality that this is a battle against the guys, then we're not going to succeed,
Oh
because
no.
we can't make it without them. And they may not realize it, but they can't make it without us. I mean, we have to collaborate, especially to address the huge problems in front of us. We all have to collaborate.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we just have too many challenges that all are very important, and they are, right away. We need to address them right away. Either we do it all together or we're not going to go anywhere, right? So, and you're right. I mean, women and men. I mean, we need to work together. Without men, we can't work. Men without women can't seem to be working right. So,
well, the system was designed by men, and look where we are. It really appeals to sort of the male mentality of conquering, acquiring, all that kind of stuff. And so here we are. And so we really do need a woman's perspective in the system, but it will take a while to change it. It will.
it will. It will. But that's what we're here for. And that's why Women in Science is our, a little drop of water of awareness and pushing and supporting and all that. So thank you, Renee, for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.